My task today is to talk to you about a crisis and possibilities, but in the context of the so-called Global Green New Deal, which is a design and a proposal that was produced by our team at the United Nations Environment Programme in consultation with 20 different UN agencies. And I will hope that we can, through this discourse and with the questions and answers that follow afterwards, set some of the preparatory thinking in place for real change in the way we think and act. Firstly, why do we need a global Green New Deal? And I can think of at least 5 good reasons there. I think we are all Keynesians today, so everyone believes that fiscal stimulus is the way forward, given that we are in a recession, so-called counter-cyclical approach. And the question to ask then is, what kind of economy will ensue? Will it be the old brown economy, reinvigorated with additional capital of the order of $2.5 to $3 trillion, that is $2.5 to $3 million worth of additional investment? Or will it be something that is a little bit less prone to the same cycle of boom and bust, to the same risks and the same concerns that we have seen in our existing economy and our existing financial system? I hope the former. The second reason I believe we need the Global Green New Deal is that there is a lot of evidence to show that green investment actually beats the shopping spree. And let me give you an example which is from the US, where the Center for American Progress worked out what would result in terms of employment in the US economy by investing $100 billion, either in renewables and energy retrofits, or the same amount of money in just spending, as in giving it to people and then ensuring they go to the shops and spend it, or in investing it in oil and gas, further investments in oil and gas. And the answers were $100 billion would create 2 million jobs if it were spent and invested on renewables and energy efficiency. It would create 1.7 million jobs in terms of retail sector if it was spent on spending spree and actually spent, not just banked and put into savings. And thirdly, that it would create 550,000 jobs if spent and invested in the oil and gas. So the reason for that is that, well, firstly, compared to the spending spree approach, most of the jobs in renewables were domestic jobs, only 9% import content versus 22%. The second is that they were more intelligent jobs, therefore on average they earned more and there were more of them. And I think whilst the oil and gas sector had more highly paid jobs, and that's the reality, there were clearly less, about a fourth of as many jobs created using that route. So here's an example from the world's leading economy, if you like, on how green investment beats the spending spree. And I'm delighted that the Obama administration has adopted this thinking in its energy plan. Third reason is what I call the triple win, the win-win-win solution. You can get decent jobs, you can get lower risk, and you can get higher returns all at the same time. And don't let anyone tell you that's not possible. And a group called the World Resources Institute, some of you may be familiar with them, and the Peterson Institute for International Economics produced a study last year where they looked at the impact of $1 billion of investment on energy use and on job creation, and they found that you could get with that $1 billion something like 30,000 additional jobs, and at the same time you could save over the next 3 years $450 million in terms of the impact on prices of energy and the impact of lower energy use as a result of efficiency. And not only that, you obviously emitted less carbon dioxide. So there's something like 60 megatons of carbon dioxide less emission as a result of that same spending. So you had lower risk from climate change, you had more jobs from the additional opportunity, and also you had lower costs, in other words, less energy being used. So triple win is possible. The fourth reason is that globalization, in other words, why does this have to be global? Why can't just countries go ahead on their own? I think we are in a connected global economy. We can't deny that. So when London is hit by a recession and husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends buy fewer flowers for each other, there is an impact on the economy of the poor in Kenya because that's where the flowers come from, and therefore an impact on the agriculture and the footprint. How the connection between Nairobi and a village outside Nairobi and London on the other. This is the kind of economy we are in, and we can't pretend that we can have isolated pockets of action. Lastly, of course, the crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Why would we want to do that? They only happen once in a while. Now, the the answer I think that I'm heading towards is that there is a solution. There is a solution which is the green economy, and one has to spend a few moments defining what that means. And it's easier sometimes to define a green economy in terms of what is not a green economy. And the way I see it is this, is that if you have an economy which consumes capital, then it is not a green economy. And if you have an economy which is creating unacceptable risks for humanity, then that is not a green economy. So let's look at our global economy today. We know from the footprint work that's been done by Mathis Wakenagel and others from the Global Footprint Network that the ecological footprint of the planet as a whole is something like 35% higher than its biocapacity. So we are already eating into natural capital. We may be creating some physical capital and hopefully some human capital, but we are definitely eating into natural capital. But that's not a good thing, and I don't call that a green economy. Secondly, we know from the work that is from IPCC and obviously its interpretation in economic terms from the Stern Review that the emissions of 42 odd gigatons per annum are something of the order of 4 or 5 times what the Earth can actually absorb on an ongoing basis. And therefore we are accumulating more and more climate risk as a result of our emissions from the existing economy. That's not a sensible risk to accept for humanity and for its future. So on neither count, either of not consuming capital or of not creating unacceptable risk, can we define ourselves as being a green economy. There is a third risk which we are creating, which I will talk about, and let me mention that as well, which is the risk of social disorder, the risk of total collapse in our political and social peace, because we are widening the gap between the rich and the poor. We are creating greater disparities. The rich may be getting richer, but the poor are not getting richer. And that gap is widening, and that creates social discontent of a kind that perhaps whose consequences we have not even imagined. So that again is an additional risk, if you like, that is to human survival, and that is not acceptable. Going from that, we see that the objectives of the Green New Deal, and I draw these from the excellent paper by Professor Ed Barbier, who some of you may remember as one of the original authors of Blueprint for a Green Economy. Barbier literally gave up his Christmas vacation to write this for us with some support from our side. But these are the objectives, and they're drawn from his paper, which is, first is obviously revive the world economy, create decent jobs, and help the vulnerable. In other words, ensure that the weakest sections are protected. The second objective is to reduce the carbon dependency of the global economy, to reduce ecosystem degradation, and to address water scarcity. And these are, of course, the risk issues. And the third is straight back to the Millennium Development Goals. Now, I think it's optimistic to suggest that they will be achieved by 2015, but we are just restating that that's when we are supposed to achieve them. So the 3 objectives of the Green New Deal clearly cover both the social, the political, the risk, and the environmental dimensions of the whole global economy. And what we've done is, from the UNEP group, and this report is available on our website, we've written a policy brief for a global Green New Deal, where we are arguing that you need changes at 3 levels. You need to address international policy architecture, ensure that international trade subsidies are reduced and trade flows are preserved. You need to ensure the continuation of aid, and certainly Norway has a very good record in that respect in terms of the 1% odd percentage of GDP that you give towards the developing world. Thirdly, internationally, you need to have both a functioning global carbon market, which ensures that there is a forward price on carbon, which goes into the business calculations of sustainable energy projects and initiatives in reducing carbon dependence. So you need a forward carbon market in order to be able to price their actions and in order that they can make long-term and sensible business decisions. And you need also to develop global markets for ecosystem services, and some of these are forming, but there's only really 3 of them right now, and they're very small. There is a huge amount required internationally in terms of transferring technology and transferring know-how right down to the locations where it's needed. And last but not the least, there has to be global coordination. Otherwise, it will be a problem of one side moving too fast or too slow.